everyone, and welcome to this Gender Budgeting Watchdog Network podcast on women at the center of the green transition. I'm Besjana Hysa, project manager at the Gender Alliance for Development Center and Albanian coordinator at the network. Simply put, green jobs help protect the environment, and a just transition makes sure this shift is fair for everyone. So today we ask, how do we make green transition not only green, but also fair for everyone? We often hear that green economy is the future. But if women are not part of this future, then it's not a transition, it's just inequality in a new color. Today we will look at jobs, skills, financing, and power, and why women must be at the center if we want a real progress. So I'm happy today to have two fantastic guests with me. Tiffany Sprague from the UNDP Istanbul Regional Hub. Tiffany manages the STEM for All and Just Transition platforms, which help countries design climate and STEM policies that include women from the start. She is also the co-founder of the Scientific Adventures for Girls in the US, a great example of her long-term commitment to opening opportunities for girls and women. Also with me today is Dr. Zorana Antonijević, Director of PolicySolutions, a leading gender expert in our region with over 20 years of experience and author of recent EBRD study on women access to green finance in Bosnia and Herzegovina and North Macedonia. So welcome. And today we with these sectors, green jobs, climate finance, renewable energy, digitalization that are growing very, very fast and shaping the future, we need to ask honestly, are women truly included, or are we repeating old patterns under a new label? So let's begin with seeing the global picture. I will start with a question to Tiffany. Your UNDP OECD study looks at where women stand in emerging green jobs and sectors. From your research, where are women right now in the new labor market? Are they entering these sectors, and did anything in the data surprise you?
Thank you for the question, and also just thank you for having me today. Yes, so we engaged with the OECD on a study that spanned 11 countries in the Western Balkans, Central Asia, and the Eastern Partnership states. And as you mentioned, we wanted to make sure in this green transition that is promising a lot of new jobs, new sectors, and sustainability. We wanted to make sure, how are women faring in this transition? And what we found is green jobs currently make up 3% of total employment. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but it is rapidly growing and it is emerging, and it is pretty much the same as the OECD country average. But what we also found is that we already see emerging gender inequalities, gender gaps, even in the beginning of this transition, that only one job is held by a woman for every two men that hold these green jobs. And women living in rural areas, we also looked at 30 different regions across the study. They are even more at risk of not being able to get a green job. So, and most of the sectors that are emerging are in renewable energy, in digital technologies, and in climate protection. So these are really massive sectors. There's a lot of massive potential, and there are already a lot of women that are doing great work in these fields. But we see that because of skills mismatch, the majority of women that are working in brown sectors may face up to twice the risk of transitioning from a declining sector and going into a green sector. And you asked what I found surprising. So in countries like Montenegro, the women that hold green jobs are actually in managerial positions. So what this tells us, I think, is that women who hold these green jobs are highly educated. And so green jobs may not be open for women that have lower skills. So how can we then how can we implement policies, pull policy levers to make sure that no one's left behind in the green transition? There's a lot of promise, but the data already shows that women are already starting to be left behind.
And that's not a good news, but hopefully we will have time. We are in time to make a little bit change on that. And now I'm going to Zorana. Your EBRD study showed that in Bosnia and Herzegovina and North Macedonia, women make only about 1/4 or even less of green loan users. From your experience, what is driving this gap? Is the institutions, the banking culture, the social norm, or mix of all of this?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me as well. Yes, you're right. And just to continue what Tiffany said, basically, combination of many factors affects access of women to finance. Usually we call it structural barriers. As Tiffany said, women are very highly educated, and there are, especially in our region, the whole region is full of potential in women's labor force. But on another hand, there is these structural barriers, like, for example, lower income or less access to employment, especially permanent employment contracts. We noticed in our study that young women are especially affected because they don't have permanent contracts, and because of the reproductive role that women have in a society, usually, this is seen as a disadvantage, also for the jobs, but also for access to green loans. So there is also a lot of biases and prejudice, especially coming from vendors, for example, those who are selling green technology to the citizens, to the clients. They're mostly men, and they use very technical language, that sometimes make women uncomfortable, and somehow they diminish their role in asking for green loans. And then also one thing that we notice is basically decision-making, power relations in the families, in the households. Usually the big investments, like what household, what one family will invest in green technology, these decisions are mainly made by men, not women. Women are more like for the everyday, maintenance of domestic life. So these are all barriers, and also from the part of the banks. When we talk about green loans, this is, for example, collateral conditions that women cannot fulfill, because it's also something very traditional in our region that women doesn't own houses or apartments. It's not on their name. They're even, I would put in a quotation marks, they're even encouraged within the family to get to not accept inheritance when they're offered to. So there are many factors.
Thank you, Zorana. And coming back to women in STEM, it's a phrase that we listen a lot, and I think in Albania it's like becoming the trend, like women in STEM. But we know that from our works, the real barriers that come after these phrases. So Tiffany, based on your work with STEM for All, what are the main things keeping women out of green jobs and STEM careers today? And looking to the future, which green sectors could offer the biggest opportunities for women if we act now with the barriers?
So first of all, we just wanted to put out there that green jobs don't necessarily need a STEM degree. But the reason why our study looked at STEM is because there's a lot of linkages between STEM and green jobs. So I just wanted to put that out there, because the skills in terms of innovating for climate action requires STEM skills. So I'll just answer the question in that context. In the STEM for All platform, so we took a look at where the structural and social barriers are, And it starts from birth, basically. It's a social norm thing. And I think we know this, that there's occupational segregation since, I don't know, the beginning of time in terms of caregiving and hunter and gathering, and then in agriculture and whatnot. But yes, so people, I'm so sorry. The question you're saying, what are the barriers?
What are the barriers? And also the green sectors, what green sector offers as a big opportunities?
Okay, so see, the barriers to getting the green jobs is the fact that women are underrepresented in STEM, because STEM is like a gateway into these paths. So by looking at the barriers to STEM, you'll see the barriers to the green jobs. And starting from the beginning, I mean, it is getting better. When we did research with different stakeholders, people across the region were saying, you know, like you were saying in Albania, women in STEM, like it's becoming, the awareness is there. I think that women are underrepresented.
But also in Albania, it looks like it's coming more as a trend as the doing good. That's
right.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah,
because in Albania, even though the STEM degrees are usually like men degrees, in Albania we don't see very huge gap in the people going to the university. Usually more girls finish the university, but in the end, when you see to the jobs in the market, there are more boys, at least at the high positions.
For sure. And that's when we looked at the pipeline. So you see from the very beginning, you'll see, and I have to say, even just in my own household, because it's just so ingrained that, you know, boys are good at math, girls are, you know, are not good at math or whatnot. And I have sons and daughters. And I had to also kind of like really consciously be like, here's some Legos for my daughter, Legos for my sons. Even though I'm a feminist, I know these things, but it's just kind of ingrained. So in the start, when we interviewed people were saying, oh, my mom and dad pushed me to law or to business, not necessarily to math and science. But then you see in the classroom, girls perform the same or even better than boys in math and science. And like you said, they do go into university, they will enroll, and some will get STEM degrees. But then there's a drop from like, do they actually go into jobs that are related? And it's just society, I think the way that it's structured, there's a lot of social norms that even say, oh, I do like math, I do want to go into science careers, but I think it's going to be a lot of hours. How am I going to balance that between home life? And so they may, even if they want to go, they might, just the perception of this field. So, so they're along the pipeline. And then I'd say in leadership, there are a lot of great leaders of women in STEM, but you just see like fewer and fewer women making it through the pipeline and advancing. But, and then your last question was about...
Okay. Which green sectors could offer the biggest opportunities for women if we act now?
Yes. So two things. One, you do see a lot of women going into like renewable energy, sustainable, what's it called? Sustainability, impact in corporations. The issue with these that hold promise is then they might become, again, occupationally, segregated by gender. Oh, women are really good at taking care of the earth. They're like Mother Earth, they're nurturers. And so they'll go into these things. So we want to make sure, they do hold a lot of potential in renewable energy, biology, agritech, I think, where already women are represented, if that makes sense. So I think those do hold. We need to make sure that the ecosystem doesn't the social norms around these sectors start to become, gender, segregated along gender lines. The second thing I think is in entrepreneurship. Women are very innovative, and they tend to take care of solutions that are like based on their lived experiences. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and we need the innovation, frankly. we are in a climate mess.
Yes.
We need the innovation. So yeah, renewable energy, I would say, and entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Tiffany. Now, going back to Zorana, your research shows something very encouraging. When women access green finance, they often invest more ambitiously with stronger environmental impact. Could you share an example from your work that shows the difference in practice?
Well, there is one very interesting finding that it's actually in North Macedonia study that loans that women take, green loans that women take from the banks, are higher in terms of amount of money that they take than average men's loans. If we divide it by sex, this. So that was interesting, and also this is one thing that is as an example. We also have, for example, higher participation of elderly women, for example, in North Macedonia, that are taking green loans, which is interesting, and it goes with this nurturing role that women have all their lives, that are, they are probably grandmothers helping their daughters and sons when they want to, start a family, and then to have also good house and good basically isolation of the house, and etc., good heating system. So this is also one of the examples where women are especially recognized as a clients. And also one example from Bosnia and Herzegovina is that there is more microfinance institutions in Bosnia and Herzegovina. In North Macedonia, we didn't have any, but these microfinance institutions are closer to citizens, to clients, to borrowers. And women somehow better communicate with microfinance institutions because usually rural women are more prone to come to the microfinance institutions because they're somehow more open, more flexible than banks. And then, so that is maybe, if we think about recommendations, for example, right now, that is maybe some path that also banks should take to be more flexible, more, to take some of the practices that were in microfinance institutions. So these are the examples. And also our online survey showed that women are aware more than men about climate change and how that affects families and household. And very simply put, because they're responsible under the quotation marks, because this is their gender role, as Tiffany said, their norm, because they're responsible for family life, cooking, cleaning, that affects basically everyday life of women. For example, increase in prices, electricity price, make women to use their free time or their leisure time, the time when they have to rest, to do, for example, cleaning, to turn on the washing machines or dishwashers, or to cook, for example, after the midnight when electricity is, for example, cheaper than during the day. So this really affects the also family dynamics and their personal life, and also health, if we want to really go further. So this care work that they're doing to maintain household is really closely connected to climate change and these electricity bills that are rising. And of course, one example that they're really aware is because they're more affected also with the energy poverty. And this is something that, women live longer, and especially in rural areas, in, women-owned households or women-only households, they are also exposed to a lot of work in terms of heating system, to get wood, to do many things to actually keep the same living standards as they had before climate change. So this is something that we found out in the study. It's not always positive. There are only few examples that are really positive. Most of the things are really scary, as you also mentioned. But there is a lot of potential also in women as borrowers, because they're also how to say, the only banks has to somehow change the perspective and to work on biases and the structural obstacles that exist.
Thank you, Zorana. And yes, we understood from Zorana that women are more aware for climate change and problematics and impacts that have in their lives. But coming to this point, a question for both of you: how do barriers for women weaken country climate resilience? So the impact that this has to the country. What does the country lose socially, economically, environmentally, when half of the population, approximating half of the population, cannot invest in energy efficiency, adaptation, or green innovation?
Well, this is a very complex question. Well, it is any other sector, I would say. Also in green transition, countries has to somehow look at the potential of 50% of the population that is not utilized somehow in the green jobs or in energy efficiency. I think that first of all there is a loss in average growth, economic growth, in terms of employment, and especially employment, as Tiffany mentioned, in the innovative fields, in knowledge economy, in green jobs, and this is something that, of course, affects the overall, growth in one country. Then also, I would say, if we don't measure growth only with GDP, which we of course not, because as Tiffany said, as a feminist, we are looking beyond the GDP. The social loss is also enormous, because especially for marginalized women, for the population that lives in remote or rural areas, I think that the loss is also in the quality of life, food that we eat, water that we drink, So this sort of also role of women as activists, environmental activists, is extremely important, because they're not so visible, but actually they're very active in protecting, for example, waters, protecting soil of fertile parts of the country. We have also, I think there is a huge potential, especially in our region, to see climate change and something that can unite region instead of dividing it, And I'm thinking a lot and writing a lot and reading a lot about, environmental activism as a tool for peace building in the region. So that's also very interesting because, environmental change, climate change, they don't recognize the borders. And especially for rivers, for example, we share rivers, we share woods, we share mountains, So I think this is also huge potential within the region, in our states, that could be somehow better utilized. I don't think that politicians are thinking about that in that way.
Thank you, Zorana. And Tiffany?
Yeah, just to build, I agree with everything Zorana says, but I feel like the transition to green economies will be slowed down if we don't do anything to make sure that women are included. We're hearing a lot of reports that the next 2.5 years are very crucial in terms of climate change. If we don't have all hands on deck, then it's just slowing our progress, right? That's one thing. And then by not including women in this transition, which is very urgent, then we lose out on that innovation. Because a lot of innovation right now is, people think of it, unless they're doing exhaustive work and doing focus groups and market research and whatnot, the innovation may not be as inclusive as it could be. Need to make sure that everyone is participatory in innovation. And we're seeing, we cannot forget about the digital and green transitions are quite intertwined. Right. And we're looking at artificial intelligence right now. And they're replicating and exacerbating, accelerating existing biases. So I do worry about not including women in the development of AI and making sure that those guardrails are there. We're already seeing a surge of technology-facilitated gender-based violence because of it. I think there's a lot of risks by not making sure that there are these policies to ensure that women are there. So an economic loss, competition loss. We have these commitments to the Paris Agreement, to the EU accession. So all these things will be slowed down unless we do something about it. Yeah.
So that's why it's very important to put down these barriers, and thank you for the answers. I will go back to Tiffany with another question. What skills, training, digital tools, and care economy investments are needed so that women don't get left behind?
Yes.
So how to change now these barriers?
In 60 seconds or less, trying to figure it out. Yes, as I mentioned in yesterday's talk, there's a lot of short-term policies that I think can be implemented right away. And that is, one, using data that's already out there. So the data that UNDP and OECD generated, targeting sectors, targeting locations and regions that are most at risk right now. And making sure that there's investments, public investments in reskilling, anticipating who's going to be losing their jobs because of the green transition, and then how can they invest in putting together reskilling for those most vulnerable in the region. So I think that's one thing. And then also just investing in better data collection, more gender disaggregated data, because without the data, we hear this all the time. You can't measure you can't fix what you don't measure. So having that data, and then I think investing in women's leadership, whether that's in public investment, but also incentivizing companies. And people have a problem with quotas, and women feel or sometimes it has this perception of tokenizing women by putting down quotas, but I think they're needed.
They are needed,
yes, because otherwise they won't make it in some instances. I think what we found in the research that larger companies do a better job than SMEs, because they have the investors and shareholders, or their international companies that put these systems in place, but SMEs that are the backbone of the economy, sometimes they see these things as like a box ticking exercise, or they just don't have the money or the resources to invest in making sure that they can reskill and upskill their employees, making sure that women have, sponsorships or mentorship and sponsoring them. So I'd say investments in the SME sector to make sure that they're also able to transition into the green transition to support their women. And then finally, it's the care, making sure that there's like comprehensive care systems so that women are able to participate meaningfully and fully in green jobs, and also be able to, have that perception that that even if they take jobs and go into leadership, that they'll be able to balance everything. And also to make sure that men are included in in partaking in parental leave policies, or ensuring, or maybe not mandating, but take time off to be with your
in
kid.
Sweden, they mandate it.
Yes,
right?
yes. So it's not just I don't need to do that because my wife is going to be taking care. So and at the end of the day, it's just changing hearts and minds around what it means to be fully participatory in society and economic life. So those are some short-term.
Thank you,
policies,
Tiffany.
yeah.
And starting from where Tiffany left, now I want to ask Zorana, what reforms or financial products would make climate financing more accessible for women?
Wow. I think when it comes to financial products, I think that the financial products have to be more flexible in terms of, for example, what kind of collateral is requested, especially for women. Then another issue is, for example, when you have joint application for the loan in one household, be aware that some of the borrowers could be other family members, like, for example, mothers and grandmothers, let's put it that way. Then we also notice that banks are very strict when it comes to age limit, when it comes to the senior citizens, that, for example, they put an age limit that when you took a loan, you have to return it in a shorter amount of time for senior citizens, which makes sense, of course. But on another hand, we know that women live longer. I already said that, and this is the world, fact. It's not, world studies prove that, and this is like that in the region. So maybe also to take into account that. Then also younger generations. I think, at least in the case of Serbia, younger generations are much more aware of the climate change. They had it that from the primary, school, and they continue through their education. So I think this is some potential that is not utilized enough from the perspective of financial products, because they are aware, and they're for sure they will. They want to contribute, and they want to do something. We also have a fact, especially here in the region, that children and parents stay longer in the same household. So also to combine incomes somehow is also something that could be recognized from the banks, especially from younger generations. Then job stability is a huge problem. Especially for younger generations, but also for everyone in our region. I mean, not only to have a job, but also to keep the job. That's also something that people struggle in the region. So I think also some sort of flexibility in that sense. And one thing that it's very, very important that we recognize that from the study is access to information, and to provide this information in the language that is not too complicated and too, the language that doesn't reach to the clients, and the clients don't understand that. And also make some efforts to talk to the vendors and to include vendors in the outreach to remote areas, for example, in our countries. So this is more or less something that banks can do very easily. One thing that we will do in the future within the framework of the same project with the EBRD will be production of knowledge products. So what we can offer to banks in order to make this type of decisions easier, whether it will be some sort of checklists or, different kind of knowledge products that will that banks can use in order to be able to recognize who their clients is, what is the portrait of the client, and then also to outreach to other categories of citizens. Because there is one trap, I would say, in green transition, and this is the one that actually it will favor the better off or richer population, that those who are poor actually, unfortunately, will be poorer because of the green transition. And I think both your work and my work prove that this is really a challenge to reach out towards those who are vulnerable and marginalized in our societies.
Thank you, Zorana. Now to end in a lighter but meaningful note, I want to ask you two short questions. The first one is one stereotype about women and green jobs that you should finally, you think that it should, okay. One stereotype about women and green jobs that we should finally retire. So pull it out totally. And the second question, one innovation in climate or green finance that truly excites you right now. So I think both of these are very personal from your work.
So what green stereotype we should
retire?
And
what truly excites you now?
There's so many stereotypes.
Yes. Well, one stereotype, if I can jump in while you are thinking about it. One stereotype that we should, stop with for good is that women are not good in technical, jobs. They don't understand the technicality or math, or this is the stereotype, as you show in your study, in every study, that follows them through through life, from the birth to the end. So this is the one stereotype that I would really like to bury and not to deal with it anymore.
I don't know if it's specific to just green jobs and technical. I would say it's just around women in the workplace in general. It's just that, that we are the primary caregivers. I feel like that kind of is a root cause of a lot of the way that people interact with women, if they have kids, or even if they don't have kids. It's like if you have them, there's a certain way of being. If you don't have them, there's also these perceptions, but it's always just tied with women and caregivers and being the caregiving role. And I think that impacts what types of jobs or what projects that we get staffed with, or whether or not you get promoted or whether or not you're able to lead a
Lead
project. That to me, because I think, I mean, women, we've shown that we are very participatory in the workforce, and that we can do, where we're seeing a lot of the biggest gap is in the leadership positions, like politically, now in these renewable energy, or even like in the kitchen. I mean, a lot of the chefs that are like, they're all men, and so it's like that's where I want to kind of, because I do think that us being like the primary caregiving role, I just wish that we should have, both men and women should be part of that.
Thank you. And about innovation that excites you now.
Yeah. Let's see, innovation. I would say the innovation in healthcare, and being able to use technology to deliver medicines to places that are hard to reach. Also, just being able to use your phone to reach out to medical health care. It makes it a lot easier for those that don't have accessible to healthcare. Or I think of like some of the biggest risks are like in food security as well.
Yes,
so maybe in like agri-tech. There's a way, like with water scarcity.
Oh yes, I actually, there is one thing that really excites me, and that's connected to scarce water resources that I read recently about. But I think that what really impressed me is that I found out recently that even in a very dry areas like deserts, because of the difference in the temperature during the day and during the night, and the humidity actually that it's there, the water can be extracted from the atmosphere. And this type of innovations that actually allows us to use all the resources, and also this is now it is in testing phase, but many for example coastal towns, like for example in Albania or in Greece or in Turkey, in our region, basically they have to desalinate the water in order to have drinking water in the area. Now they find a way how to desalinate and then return the water into the ocean, which is great because the pure desalination actually affects the living world in the water. So everything connects with water. Actually, it's very exciting. So thank you for the tip.
Thank you both, Tiffany and Zorana, for your insights today. And I think that with the whole our discussion today, one message came truly very clear, that green transition is not only about technology and new jobs, it's about people. And if women are not included, the transition is neither fair nor resilient. So when women have equal access to skills, jobs, and finance, the transition becomes stronger, smarter, and truly sustainable. Thank you again. Until the next time, take care, stay curious, and stay committed to equality.